Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to FPV XP. I've done it. After 10 years of ordering parts, everything came. I slogged it, I did the night shift, I worked my off, but it's done. I've built it. The Hyperlow CG, it's here. Have a look at this. Oh, the holy grail, the cleanest, sexiest build I've ever seen. Probably that you've ever seen. I'm going to build it online. I've ordered all the parts. I'm going to review it. I'm going to fly it, and you get to watch it all. I have enlisted the help of a professional pilot to put it through its paces, and we can then judge it to see whether it's actually any good. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the build. Have a good day. Please, like and subscribe.
Okay, and here we are, ready to build. We've got everything that's going to go into the build laid out here, as you can see. The ESC, here we are. The flight controller here. The VTX here. Transmitter here. Your motors and your camera. These are the core bases. There will be little bits and bobs that we add on here and there. I've done a little bit of pre-prep, you can see on the ESC. I've done a bit of a pre-solder on all the cables that I'm going to use to connect to the flight controller to various parts of the system already covered with the heat shrink and have had their wires soldered and tinned. Pretty much ready to go, apart from one hiccup, which is to mount these motors like so. You can see here I've got some double-sided tape on all of the legs to hold the wires down. Now for the actual shrink wrap that I've chosen, won't actually fit over the motor once it's mounted and the wires are down. So the arms need to be off so that I can then come with the heat shrink from this side and then heat shrink it. So I'm going to skip off cam and get that all done, and when we get back, everything will be ready to rock and roll. The motors will be on the arms and the shrink wrap will be down. We'll then proceed to go ahead and solder the motors wires down on the ESC and continue from there. Thanks guys, back in a mo. Boom. And if by magic, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. So I got them all attached. I had to take every arm off. Put the heat shrink on, put every arm back on, but I'm quite confident that it's solid now. You can see underneath, the wires are all straight because they're on a nice piece of double-sided tape just under the heat shrink. Looking good. Next step, take the beautiful, the most sexy, gorgeous 4-in-1 ESC I've ever seen. We're going to mount it here. And once it's mounted using these silicon standoffs, we can start to cut the wires from the motor and get it all lined up and ready for a good soldering. This is a bit of a fiddly job, and I believe they go underneath. I don't believe they go on top. I'm quite concerned because I don't remember. They go on top. I'm telling fibs. Okay, so they go this way around. So if I put them in the other way around, it just doesn't work out. Because I'm going to use bolts, M3 bolts, that go right from one side of the frame at the top through to the other. And if you get this all incorrectly mounted up, one, it's very high at the bottom, and at the top, there isn't much clearance. And the whole point of this build is to have the clearances I need, and as little wiring as possible, so I don't have any jiggles or any cold solder joints or any wires that eventually rattle loose from their solder joints. I'm really, really optimistic about this build. I do hope it turns out to be as impressive as just hoped. Right, so this bad boy is going to be mounted here. And for the meanwhile, I'm going to have to be using these. These are 30 millimeters and they'll go right through the whole of the frame. So we'll put the 4 of them in. Sorry, I know this is a bit messy on camera. But if we are to actually use these bolts instead of another mounting solution where it doesn't actually tie to the holes in the top of the top plate, then I feel like it just doesn't quite have the support that the frame could have. Come on, that seems to be a bit on the stuck side. Let's see if we can get it moved through a little bit. Oh no! This is the last thing that you really want happening on camera, in all honesty. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. A little bit of cooperation in the end, thank heavens. And I'll tell you what, just looking at this frame already, I'm head over heels in love. Head over heels. It's stunning, sexy, it's gorgeous. I've been thinking about her all night, every night for the last month. And in all hopes, when she's all dressed up and ready to go, she's going to be a real rock and roller. Right, so those 4 are in there. All the motor wires are out of the way. This is actually going to have to mount this way. I was going to mount it the forward way, but thanks to BL Heli, not too bad. Look at that! Oh my! Honestly, I've been waiting. I'm so excited. That is absolutely stunning. Tell me what you think. Guys, feel free to comment. Look at that. I'm in love. I'm actually in love. Beauty. Absolute beauty. Now, I certainly don't want this moving around. And I've got all my wires coming in from the sides, as you can see, from the motors. This, I imagine, is going to prove to be pretty tricky to do on camera. I've not 100% decided if I should leave a little bit of slack in them, because it's always really scary. If you cut them too short, then it's game over, isn't it, at the end of the day? So what are we thinking? Over there? Because I can always leave them a bit long and just cut the slack off myself, which will be more than fine for me. So we are there for the first one. What do we think? Are we going with that length? Oh my, that's nerve-wracking. Alright, let's do it. Too late to go back. Section 2. Okay, so I'm actually going to stop speaking right now while I get this all hooked up, and I'll fast forward through all the frames just so I don't waste 10 years of your lives, because you're obviously not here to waste your whole lives. So from this point on, right here, we are going to fast forward. Alright, perfect. So, we've got them all soldered up now. And I imagine everybody who's watching this video is actually going to know that the next step is to solder them onto the ESC, which can be quite a fiddly job. So I'm going to try and tuck this away and to do it with some sort of decorum while you watch. And I'll fast forward through the majority of them, and I'll do a couple just so that you can see what it is exactly that I'm doing. So I'm going to try these out. These are little sideways folded pliers. I've got those tinned, and I've got the wires tinned, the ESCs tinned, so all that we need to do basically is to get in there and to start doing a bit of soldering. So generally, just so I don't get in my own way, I'm going to try and start with the outside wire first. So I'm going to grab it like so. Get it into position and make sure that my hand is resting. That's a bit long, so we'll cut. I only want the very, very tip on there. That allows me then to apply pressure while I solder this on. So we can have a look to see how that's come out. Solid solder, needs a bit of a polish, but not the end of the world. And that's how we roll, and I'm going to continue doing these for you, but for the rest, we're going to fast forward through. So, give me a second, I'll get this done for you. And that gets that done. That was a bit tricky, ladies and gentlemen, considering this is the first time I've used this particular soldering iron. So if I can get the wires straightened up, I didn't manhandle them a little bit with the pliers, but by the overall look of it, that's not too bad, if I don't say so myself. And I do. You guys know me. Alright. So for the next part of the series, we're going to be soldering the wires from the flight controller to this VTX and to this receiver. I have pre-tinned wires and cables here, and I've put heat shrink on them, and we'll be installing those all to each other because I don't need to do any more soldering here, because this flight controller literally is just going to plug in like that. So I can wire everything up right now and get it all ready to rock and roll. Alright. I will skip over and get everything set up on the bench so you can all see the next piece of soldering work. And boom, we're back with the work that's beginning on our flight controller, ladies and gentlemen. So as you can see here, I've got the wiring for the camera already put in underneath. Next, we'll do the wiring for the receiver, and then we'll go ahead and do the wiring for the VTX. I have the diagram up to be watched on my laptop, and we'll go through this and solder everything into place and get ready for the installation of the flight controller. So we'll start with the positive and the ground and the video output for the camera from the flight controller. I imagine I'm not that zoomed in and it may be tricky to understand, but for the sake of that, I've actually included the link to the wiring diagram for the F405 DALRC flight controller in my description. So feel free to have a look. This is just a build video of how I'm doing and what needs to be done. If you need the specific and exact information, please feel free to reference the link. All the information is there. So without further ado, wish me luck. We shall solder all our parts together. So I'll just add some solder to my iron. Make sure we're in a good state and ready to go. And it is a very precise operation, as you can see here. I always really like to solder from one side to the other, so that you can see all the wiring will actually be hidden underneath the board when I install it. So there you see all the wiring. There is an extra wire here for the Foxeer Falkor camera, for the voltage sensory, but I haven't had a solid look at exactly where that's going to go. So until I know 100% for sure, I'm not going to solder it. I'm going to leave it loose here. I'll put a little cap on it to keep it going. So that's for our camera, and that's in. And next we'll solder in the wire for our VTX. The wires for the VTX, for the transmitter, because that's where we're going to go next, are these ones just here. So because I'm using the FRsky, which you can see here, I hope you can see because I've set the zoom to manual, because I'm actually doing this all on a webcam, trying to showcase my pro skills at doing videos, which I don't actually have, but thank you for watching anyway. please like and subscribe. Alright, so we're going to wire this one in now. It has 3, it's a positive, a ground, and an S-bus port, and we're going to get the wiring in for that. Again, we're going to come in from underneath because I want it to be really clean from the top. I really don't want it to be a messy build and have wires hanging around everywhere. Hence, I've actually put the heat shrink on all the cables I've made myself. So, going on to this, and hopefully I don't actually need a magnifying glass. We have ground first, and then we have 5 volts in, or whatever it is that you are using. Now remember, I did wire one lengthwise so that I could get it in perfectly. So we have ground first, positive, neutral, and immediately S-bus. So the 3 of them in a row, just like that. And next in line for a little bit of action, we have the transmitter receiver wiring. And as you can see, we've got our ground, our voltage, and our S-bus wire, which I've got as green. Again, if you do need to see this, please feel free to follow the link in the description, because it will be able to lead you to the exact wiring diagram for this board. And as usual, I like to solder from underneath, because soldering from underneath helps me create a much cleaner look, as you can see. Okay, I'm going to skip over, get the next piece of wiring in, and I shall start the video back up. And as you can see here, the wiring to the VTX board is now in place. Just there we have ground, positive, we have our 5 volts as usual, and then finally smart audio right on the end. So that's first, second, third, fourth pin there, then ground, positive, video, and smart audio. Alright, get these soldered up. Soldering on nice and clean. Always a tricky business. And there we go again, soldered from underneath with all the wiring thought out beforehand, and I'll cut the offcuts off to make it look nice and shiny. I'm going to stop this here and get the next piece of soldering in line, and we'll begin again. Here you can see I've wired up the receiver. I'm just going to do a bit of soldering. Green first is S-bus, then we have our 5 volts, and then our ground. I'll get these done quick. And there we are. Again, I'll pause at the next piece and start the video back up. And here we are with the video of the soldering of our harness to the VTX. Yeah. There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm going to grab the frame and we'll get this all moved over to see if it all fits and that my measurements were accurate. Wish me luck. Alright, so here we have it. Everything laid out and ready to rock and roll. Starting to look quite neat. Actually, let's hope that the trend continues. So first thing I'm going to do is install the silicon standoffs on the flight controller, because that will then evenly space the board away from the ESC. Now this is a bit of a tricky one, so bear with me. Okay. Little wires absolutely everywhere. There we go. One. Oh my, I might need to have more coffee before I actually attempt to get these in. Defeated by a standoff. The silicon one at that. Suppose I'm trying to be extra careful because I've just soldered everything onto the flight controller. Got little bits and bobs. Oh well, at least that's going to test my soldering skills. See if it all holds out. Boom. One more. One more. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Now, as you can see, we have the pinouts here. Those pinouts will plug directly into the the ESC. Then we'll see if all my wiring actually fits, and I'll be incredibly impressed. Alright, so we are going on this way around, like so. Not going to push down too tight just yet because I need to see that everything fits. VTX at the back. Okay, so win is on. Feels a little bit tight, but not too bad. Extension to the Foxeer camera. There we are. And the transmitter. All looking quite clean, I've got to say. It doesn't look too bad with all the black wiring underneath. Now a little bit of a tricky bit. I've actually got to get a little bit of double-sided tape to hold this little receiver in place. So, it's going to be finicky, bear with me, because I have to move all the motor cables out of the way. Okay. Sorry. It all looks so nice and tidy now. It's all getting moved and shifted. Alright, I have a little piece of double-sided measure. Cut it a little bit smaller. I suppose this is a good review for the Gorilla double-sided tape because it seems pretty awesome and it's rubberized, which I really like. Right, there we have it. Seems stuck. Alright, now there's a double-sided piece that needs to come off the top, so I'm going to do this off camera because it's actually really finicky, so bear with me, please, guys. Right. There we have it, as you can see. Just here. Just there. Just there. Now my wire coming in. And stick down in a nice and tight manner the XM Plus. There we are. Make it all nice and tidy. my wiring back in place. What do we think? What do we think, ladies and gentlemen? What do we think? Is that good? So we'll have one going there and one going there, just like so. I suppose we should probably... Oh, I can move that up a bit to the left, I see. Just like so. Perfect, perfect. Oh wow, it is a bit of a sexy build, isn't it? Looking good, looking clean, looking sexy. We like it. Alright. Next on the agenda, the Foxeer Falkor. This thing is a beast. Everybody loves it. I love it. Let's hope it all works out well. Bit of an issue there with the voltage sensor, but I'm going to use the OSD through better flights either way. Full size camera. Nice and red to match the color scheme. What do you think? What do you think? I think it is incredibly sexy. I have a couple of screws for it just here off screen. If you give me a moment, and go to from the Foxeer box. Get this all lined up. Bit finicky as well. But we always hope to get there in the end. Okay. One. Sorry, I know this is probably a little bit out of focus for the camera. I am trying to get some better gear so I can record some higher quality YouTube videos. Right, one in there. Not too tight for now so that we can still adjust in future, but it's in. Very nice, very nice. Cable seems to be perfect reach, ladies and gentlemen. The calculations were accurate. Right. So I'm going to put two screws in, two of these plastic nuts onto the VTX at the back just to hold it in place for now. Because I have yet to install the little piece of tape at the back. Come on, come on. I tell you what, that is actually looking nice and clean with all the wires hidden out the way. What do you guys think? Tell me what you think. That was a bit of a pre-prep. I'm quite impressed. I hope we don't get too much disturbance onto the actual transmitter from the wiring being underneath everything, but it looks fairly neat and tidy. Is that focused in for you? Boom. Nice. Okay. So we have these, which are for my antennas. They come with the Hyperlow CG. You put the wire for the antenna into the tube, and then you attach the tube onto one of the standoffs just here. So we need to make a rough calculation of how long those need to be, because the last thing I want to do is cut the wires for my transmitters, the receivers, antenna. Either way, I like it about halfway, like so. I'll cut it there. If it hangs out a little bit, it hangs out a little bit. It's not the end of the world. At least I don't think so. There are people out there who will certainly complain. There we go, nice and short. one more. Boom. You have it, ladies and gentlemen. So what we'll do is get the antenna wire in and push it down on the standoff, like so. I think it's a lovely idea the way they've done this. I really enjoy it. I've seen a lot of variations of people doing this exact thing, but with parts printed on Thingiverse, which, if you don't know, is a repository of blueprints for stuff you can print with a 3D printer, which is always nice. That's actually worked out really well to hold my ESC motor wires down. There we are. And plug in the can. See that this is the correct way around. Boom. It's in. Tell me what you're thinking, ladies and gentlemen. Is it hot? Is it sexy? Do you like it? Do you love it? Because I think it's freaking awesome. Wow. That is skills build. Like, I've seen some builds where you just see 600 different color wires sticking out of every single piece. I've worked hard in the background to make sure we don't have a bunch of stuff sticking out where we don't want it. And it is a bit of a slog to get it all the way you want it exactly. But in the end, I think very worth it, because that looks fairly clean. Really nice. I do like it a lot. Alright, I'm going to pause the video here because I've got a top plate to install, and the top plate is actually custom. And to get a custom top plate in, it's going to be a bit of a palaver because I have to do some really impressive soldering that's seriously going to test my skills. Thanks all for watching. I'll be back in the next little bit of the video. Alright, here we are. I'm going to put my antenna's wire into the VTX and mount it at the back, and then I'll be ready to install the top plate, which is here. As you can see, I've done a bit of a custom job. I've drilled 2 small holes in the back of the frame so that I could run the wires from the XD connector through it. I've used some Gorilla epoxy, which is slightly rubbly but has an excellent hold, I'm told. So hopefully our wires won't chafe and break off eventually, and hopefully they're the right length. Now, I do have a colleague who has attempted this before, and he's quite reputable, I assure you. Really knows his stuff, and an excellent pilot. And he says when he tried this, that the wires within this little section here sheared off. But by then it was too late and I had done it. So the only thing I could think of to prevent that was to do a really good chamfering in the holes that I've drilled so that it doesn't cut into the wire. And I've set it with a lot of epoxy, so it looks very stable. Now the difficult piece is going to be getting them soldered onto the frame or onto the ESC, because I've worked it so that they get soldered this way around. And in effect, that will allow me then to run the wires along the side of the frame, like so, for a really neat, clean build. Whether that will work or not is the question. Right, so I'm going to shift this off to the side and get the antenna wire in the meantime. And after that's installed, we'll give the top plate a try. So, you do get this little piece of sticky foam that goes at the back, which will support my aerial. The key is first to wire the aerial through. And like everything else, I want it to be clean, I want it to look nice, so I'm trying to put things through in a clever manner. Oh, it's going to need a little pair of pliers to pull that through, to keep it nice and tidy. There we are. So, this will plug in here. Shall we make it go up or down or which way around? And then we'll get this put just here. So I'm going to put my piece of little sticky tape on. Always super sticky. Never get it off on the video the way you want to. Oh, boom. Ladies and gentlemen, not too bad. I need these to be well lined up because that's where my cable ties are gonna go. Houston, we are go, no go. Houston, we are go. Right, nice and tidy. 2 cable ties to secure that there. Then we've got lots of play, lots of motion, and hopefully we won't break anything off. Because that's always what we aim for. Now I've got 2 little teeny tiny cable ties here somewhere. I'm going to locate them. And then we can go ahead and get this installed. If you just give me a moment, so I can grab these cable ties. All right. Excuse the chat. Here we are. 2. Opted for the teeny tiny ones. Right. So under and in. Now if I was being really fussy, I could have had some black cable ties or red cable ties made for this to go along with this. I think I might call this my Venom build because it's very black and red. Very sexy. Very sexy. Alright. Bit fidgety, I'm sorry. But there we are. Right. So I'm going to turn this upside down so I can actually see what I'm doing. Boom. 1. And 2. Okay. Before I tighten them too much, let's have a look at what's actually going on at the front here. Sorry if I'm a bit shaky. Now, move it, get it nicely lined up. Oh! Wow! She's lush. I'm really in love with this build. Honestly, in love. There we go. What do we think of that? Nice. Very nice. Right. Now, a little pair of pliers. Get rid of the excess. One, 2, a little bit shorter. Job done. What do we think of that, ladies and gentlemen? Shall we go this way? What do we think? Can do. And she's in. Very, very sexy. A little bit of play on there. I don't know that I like that. See if we can pull that through a little bit. Because the last thing we want is the transmitter cable coming out halfway through. But that looks solid, it looks sexy, I like it, I'm happy with that. A little bit of pressure, I'm not sure I like that. We can move it just a little bit more. There we go, that's nice, that's nice. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Is it sexy? Is it beautiful? Do you love it? I think it's sexy. I think it's beautiful. I adore it. Alright. Now, probably for the hardest part of the build is going to be getting this top plate soldered up. I do believe this is going to be very difficult because I have engineered this in a fashion that might make it difficult. So one, we're going to get this board nice and seated. I'm going to put a big dollop of press stick underneath it. Stick it down so that we can avoid movement while we're doing this. Because that's the last thing we want or need. Not good enough. Going to put it off to this side. Right. Okay. I'm going to have to clean up my soldering iron. Now, this whole build, I've been fairly confident, apart from doing it all on camera without saying some sort of mistake, which is quite common for me. But what's really scaring me with this one is soldering these big cables onto my beautiful soldering job. So it's going to go this way around, and first off we'll solder the black into place. So it's going to be this way. Sorry guys, I know it's a bit of a tricky one. And quite a big solder job as well. Because I've also okay, so we're aiming for here. I'm going to get a nice dollop of solder on my soldering iron to heat up the other two parts. There we are. As I feared, it is very, very hard to heat it all up. Here we are. That didn't work at all. Looks like we might be in a bit of trouble here, ladies and gentlemen. So what I'm going to do is clean this joint up much as possible. and get it as hot as I possibly can. Heat up the soldering pad here as well. Okay, I'm back and I managed to get that done. Sorry I had to do it off screen, but that was intense. Those are really fat cables. Serious gauge, 12 gauge, but as you can see, we are now soldered in place with the top plate ready to go. So all that's left to do is to screw this whole baby together. So, starting with the top plate, let's see if my measurements were in the right. Oh, and I'm in. She's a beauty. She is a beauty. Push these support screws in so I can line everything up. Okay. What do we think, ladies and gentlemen? What do we think? That's gone in just right. Okay. Let's get these screws pushed in from underneath. We can then use those as a waypoint, like so. Now, I have to move this wire off to the side, like so. Put it on the tight measurement side there, but to be moved. Sorry folks, I know this is a bit of a kerfuffle. There we have it. We are in place. Perfect. Wow, that did. It came out close. Very nice, tight, clean build. Good bit of wiring there. And push these through from the bottom. Hold the top plate in place. That was very tricky getting that cable set in right. But that looks nice. That looks nice. That is nice and very clean. Oh. Okay. So let's get a little bit of the finishing touches going on here. We have our usual stands. As you can see. 3M. Get these bad boys on. 1. I don't know, like, I'm not really a fan of having the cap sticking out the side of the build, because I was really going for the cleanest build ever, but it sort of gives it the I'm a performance machine look, which is also kind of cool, I've got to say. Right. One more. Thank you to all of those who've watched this whole thing, because this has been quite a lengthy build. Looking forward to getting it all tied up now. That's very nice. Shall we start at the front? Here we have it. Yeah. Okay. Screw this in. I'm just going to lightly screw everything the first time around, because I've actually mixed up all the screws, so I need to make sure I've got everything in exactly the right place. And I'm going to move the screws that are going through the actual stack. Oh, that is sexy. What do you guys think of that? Not the sexiest build you've ever seen. I think it's the sexiest build I've ever seen. It's beautiful. Beauty, beauty, beautiful. Right. I wonder if I have space at the top for the bolts. That will give it a bit of a retro look. I just don't want it to interfere with the battery, which it might very well do, because I'm actually waiting for some black screws to go in there. Ha! Would you look at that? That is the only just fit story. I'm going to have to do a bit of a custom job on that by the looks of it. Let me get the scissors out. Cut here. Cut. There. The Venom build. Oh. Sexy as ever. A little bit more room. Now, measuring all this out as well so that we could fit a battery and a GoPro on here was actually a bit of an endeavor. There we go. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Before I stick that on, let me screw some more stuff down here. Some of these smaller screws, like so. And do be sure, if you are paranoid, to use Loctite. I use 222 Loctite. Yeah. They come with a blue Loctite, but it is incredibly strange that finding the Loctite you want in the UK is actually harder than you might imagine. Okay, one there. One there. Let's go with that. See, and as the top plate is only really secured with these 6 screws on the GoPro mount and these ones at the back here, I thought that running bolts through my entire stack, like so, would be a great idea. And they are 30 millimeters, so that makes them a tad longer than the ones you actually get. So if you are doing a bit of a custom build and you are using the DALRC stack, I recommend you get yourself some 30 millimeter ones. Because I tried 25, they just didn't reach through. And if you use 20 or 25s, the bolt sort of gets till about there. But you can see that these have come with custom standoffs to make sure that everything's secure and the flight controller stays plugged in and secure, like so. So not putting a bolt through them would mean it's sort of unsecure, and I couldn't actually use the standoffs they sent me, which they recommend highly. So you've got the bolts that run through, and make sure that the pin connector from the ESC to the flight controller is never able to move. Because if it was to move, short circuits, that sort of thing can happen. So I was very keen to get this to work without. Although, all in all, what do you think, guys? Is that looking sexy or what? Quite sexy. Quite sexy. Foxeer Falkor. Damn, this thing is hot. Alright, so I'm going to want to move these screws in from the other way around, which is a one at a time job, and these will get replaced with black ones, so don't judge me or judge me. Either way, I understand. Here we are. One more, and the last one. That's going to be the pain. There's always one, isn't there? Yeah. Of course, everyone has to give us drama. If we didn't have a dramatic one, we'd have no fun, would we? Yeah. Great. Turn it around. What I'm going to do is put some nuts at the bottom. Now these do have an O-ring, so I don't have to tighten them all the way, which is great, because I don't want to put too much pressure on the frame's top plate either. So it wasn't designed to be put through this sort of pressure without having a standoff inside. But I've got to give it to Hyperlow. They have actually really designed a good frame here. Not only is it aesthetically pleasing, which is a big plus for me, because I hate a frame that's ugly. But the thing is super practical, you know. And you just don't get that sort of application. Like, people always come up with these bright spark ideas for this or that or the next thing, but they seem to forget to be practical. Now, even though this is a Hyperlow frame, which on its own says enough, it still has enough space to accommodate anything you can conceive of, which is phenomenal. And don't judge me for using the pliers. I have O-rings on them, these bolts. Boom. Wow. Look at that beast. Beastiola. Absolutely gorgeous. Right. Finishing touch. We'll get that on there. This will probably be where the whole thing goes wrong. Ha 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 ha. Though soldering those wires onto the ESC was really difficult. I had to do it off cam. So sorry. But it was an absolute friggin' palaver. Right. Tidy up around this. Do a bit of a showcase. See what everybody thinks. 500 years of waiting. There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. In its full beauty and glory. Customized by FPV XP. We have created a hole at the back for the wiring loom to go to the 4-in-1 ESC. It's secured, tightly in place. Very beautiful. We've gone with the red and black theme. We have our antenna cable running around to the outside there. As you can see, very minimal wiring inside of the quad. Kept it as super clean as we can. Everything's pre-made. Hang on, since we're being a supermodel, let's pop the lens cover off there. Yeah, baby. Look at this Foxeer Falkor. In all its beauty, in all its glory, on the Hyperlow CG. Probably the sexiest frame in the world, I think also, that ever did exist. Right, I'm open to recommendations. I'm thanking you all for watching so much. This is only the 5th video I've ever done on YouTube. It's been absolutely long, I know. I'm sorry. But hopefully if you're trying to build a drone, it gives you the rough idea of what's required, what pieces you need, kind of good steps to take. If you guys think I missed anything or anything I can improve, feel free to comment. It's not complete just yet. I still have pieces that I'm going to perfect and make videos on. There'll be a video on the performance of this quad. Some footage of it flying around on a field. I have a buzzer that I'm going to install. You can see just here. Have to engineer a good frame. I will put the updates in for that. Once I check out how the OSD works and the voltage sensing pad that I didn't actually attach to the DALRC flight controller, we can take it from there and have a talk about it. Hopefully I get a good tune on this thing. I do know there are a couple of people here that I know and who know me that have sick tunes. Not that the tune is the most important thing, but why not, eh? Alright, like, don't like, subscribe. Please subscribe. And if you think I could have done anything better, please do go ahead and let me know. I'm going to go show this off to everybody I know. Thank you guys all for watching this video. I know it's been long. Please like, subscribe, have a good day. Keep it real, folks.